I am Ray, and this is for those who are lost in darkness. Oh, that's better. Case closed. It was just glasses. You see, there's two energies in life. There's light and there's dark. And we scared of the dark because that's where the death is. And for all intents and purposes, you can say the light is heaven, the dark is hell. And most of us associate the light with being good and the dark with being bad. And now you know about racism. Now, it's more nuanced than this. Not every dark minority is a criminal. Sorry, we're getting off track. Simply put, you can tell in your own life how trapped you are in darkness by how much you suffer on a daily basis. On a scale from 1 to 10, where are you on the spectrum of suffering? How many problems are you always going through? Okay, sometimes in life bad things happen. And you will know whether or not this is just, a temporary bad phase, or if you've been stuck, lost in the darkness for a long time. If you've been struggling with depression for a long time, anxiety, these different problems, experiencing a lot of pain and suffering, we just think it is normal, and we put up with it. And you don't got to put up with it, because there's a way out. Your life should be good most of the time. And if it's not, well, we got some work to do. You see, the light is also the truth, and the darkness is ignorance. I mean, if you think about it, if the room is dark, you can't see. If there's light, you're aware. And so the more we're trapped in ignorance, the more we're lost in darkness, the more we suffer. And that is the game of life that is being played. Human beings are thrown into this deep sleep, this dream reality, and eventually some awaken. And here you are, an awakened one, a new Buddha. Hello, Buddha. And well, the more connected to the light, to the truth you are, well, the more you become a holy person, a beacon of light, of morality of the world, perhaps. And that's really as simple as this. You got a serial killer, normal human being at one point, and then they just go down and down and down and down and down. And then you start going toward the light, toward freedom, toward the truth. Then you start to experience heaven, which is peace, love, joy, and abundance. So this is simple mathematics, my friend. That is all. Have you failed math? And there are certain things, like traits, that will lead you toward this and will lead you toward that. The path has already been paven. Paven? That's a word? I digress. And all you gotta do is follow the blueprint to get to heaven and, well, to avoid going to hell. And you don't gotta wait for the afterlife for this. You'll experience it here and now. Because we've all experienced hell. We all have. We know what it's like. Stop pretending. Like it's this kind of big mystical thing that nobody knows about, but everyone's talking about. Or heaven. You know what heaven feels like. Perhaps. Maybe at least one moment in your life. And we just fluctuate our whole lives through these things, these energies. And the more our identity is aligned with the truth, the more life is good for us. And the more our identity is aligned with ignorance, the more we experience suffering. Now here is what the truth is. And maybe I'm just being pretentious or know-it-all, but you don't have to believe me. You don't. The truth is unity. And mathematically, therefore, ignorance is separation. So, factually speaking, and no scientist would ever deny this, the star creates the planets, which means that everything on the Earth is recycled star material. Throughout the galaxy, these big stars, they explode into supernovas, and they shoot out their guts across the universe, sending out the seeds of life to be implanted, creating new solar systems, new stars, new planets. But we do not experience reality this way. The fact is that the Earth is the same stardust just vibrating at a different frequency. Because stars are energy, energy is frequency and vibration. Have you not listened to Nicola? Tisk. We got a lot of work to do. Oops. But if you were to just take 5 seconds and look at your own life, you will see that we do not experience that unity at all. Not even for a moment. Except with people we like. And that's not real unity. Well, okay, let me take that back. Okay, we experience ourselves as separate individuals. You look at the planets, right? You see, oh, there's Mercury, there's Venus, there's Earth and Mars too, and then the gas giants. But in truth, they are all just recycled star material. It's all the same stuff, just warped and manifested in a different form. But we see the separate forms. So too, when you look at me, you try peeking at my goodies, you say, oh, it's another human being. And yet me and you are just the same stardust, identified with separate forms. And the more we identify with these separate forms, the more we're living in ignorance. And now you're beginning to understand the teachings of Jesus, for instance. And all the religions. If you look at Jesus' teachings, it was all about this. It was all about integrating the proper traits in you that aligned you with the highest truth, with the light, with unity. And, well, all the bad stuff that religion talks about are the things that lead you deeper into separation. Like selfishness. Like all the evil in the world is done by selfish individuals. And that brings you to hell and misery and problems and suffering. But think about how much different your life would change if you realize that we are all one. That there is no competition. That we are all one family. Treat everyone as your family. Even the bad guys. I mean, don't, get too close to them. The point is not hanging out with bad guys. The point is when you go down the street and you look at that homeless person pooping, you don't say, oh, what a disgusting human being. Somebody needs to do something about this. You say, oh, well, that's some more stardust. You begin focusing on the unifying factor underlying everything, instead of judging and coming from a place of ego. Because the ego is always saying, me, you, separation. I am this way, I'm judging you as this way. Now there's conflict, or not conflict, or agreement. You can come to my tribe. We're together. Those people over there, they're separate from us. We're going to go to war with them. We're going to kill them because they don't agree with what we think. And so the more you got an ego, or should I say the more you're attached to your ego, the more you're living in separation. Because the ego and the mind itself, it creates the sensation of separation. And it allows us to feel as separate individuals. And that's fine. But it also throws us into this illusion that does not exist, this dream reality. Now you got to pay close attention because it's kind of tricky to understand, especially when you're caught in it. The ducks. Oh, and the bee. Okay. The dream is not the world. It's not the universe. The dream is our interpretation of reality. It's the way reality is being filtered and perceived by us. For instance, when you're living from ego, somebody cuts you off in traffic, you're immediately pissed off at that person because you feel like you have been wronged and that person over there did something wrong to you. And therefore you are offended. It's the whole name of the game. Me. I'm not getting what I want, or I'm getting what I want. Or I'm going to go get what I want. And the more we're living in that kind of reality, the more we're going to get trapped in darkness. Because you as an ego have an infinite array of different desires and aversions, things you want to avoid. And because we live in an infinite, ever-changing reality, you will never have lasting satisfaction with anything, and you will always be running away from something. So you're stuck on this hamster wheel of trying to find lasting satisfaction in a temporary reality, assuming that, oh, well, my happiness is found after I achieve this, or after I get this. I'll be happy when the future. But all you do is suffer. Because it takes energy to go get what you desire. It takes hard work. It takes effort. And then when you finally get what you want, well, now it's slipping away from you. Because that's the nature of life. It's change. So you suffer because things go away. The things you want. And then you suffer when you lose it. And then you gotta suffer again to go get something else. Same thing with things you want to avoid. There's always gonna be some problem. There's always gonna be some difficulty in life that you're facing. So you're never gonna catch a break. Ever. An infinite number of fires to put out. Of problems to deal with. And that is why we get out of this. We go from darkness into light. From ignorance into truth. So that we can be free from suffering. So that we can be free from the problems and the struggles. And in order to do this, we must align ourselves with this truth. We just point our mind in this direction, and we will begin entering into the truth. And how do you do this, you might ask? Well, there's a few different ways. The way that I came to it is seeing through the illusion of the separate form. This is a spiritual path called Jnana Yoga, Eastern philosophy. There are other ways to do this. I mean, I'm sure you got some religion that's you're familiar with. Find the stuff that leads you back to this. And another thing too, you'll begin seeing through the ignorance of some religious ideas, because you'll realize that if it leads you toward separation, it's actually leading you toward hell, toward the darkness. So I'll just go through a few different ways. Jnana Yoga is the realization that you are not your mind, that you are not your body, that you do not exist as a separate form, but that you are the silent witness consciousness behind it all. And you can't just philosophize about this. You have to see it for yourself, with your own eyes, not with your mind. Meaning, you are the observer. And everything that you observe is a changing experience. So from the moment you're born till the moment you die, there's just an infinite array of changing experiences. And behind all those changing experiences, there's one constant. You. You are there every single moment of your life, unchanged. Your body changes, your mind changes, we identify with our changing experiences, and that is why we suffer. That is why we're stuck here. But the moment you turn your awareness in on itself, and you see from where is this observing happening, you find this observing space. You find yourself. Not as a person, not as a human being, not as a mind or a body or a man or a woman. All of these things are just aspects of what you are. They are experiences, but you are not an experience. So you find the observing place, and the more you recognize what you truly are, the more the illusion of separation dissolves automatically. Because unity is the default state. Heaven is the default state. There are these added layers on top that prevent us from seeing this. So it's just a disillusionment. We continue to pull the veil out from our eyes, that which is keeping us blinded. And the light automatically shines forth. And that's just one way. Another path is the path of devotion. You devote yourself to your religious ideal, whatever that means to you. And you use that human being as a pathway to God, as a vehicle to God, like you worship Jesus. Jesus will take you to God. Just give everything to God. And why this works is because when you give your life to Jesus, you're no longer focusing or worrying about your own self. You're giving your life to God. And the more you do this, the more you lose the sense of separate self. And some spiritual practices are like worship and singing and prayer. And in these moments, you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you find God. Well, another practice is selfless service. You're just serving others all the time. Why does this work? Because you're not focused on yourself. You're 100% in, focusing on only other people. That your duty in life is to serve others. And what this allows you to do is through the work you continuously dissolve the sense of separate self, and you're 100% of the time focused on others. Return to unity. You see God in everyone, even the homeless poop. Not the poop itself, but the pooping homeless person. And so you treat that individual the same way you would treat royalty. Because to you, we are all one. We are all vessels for God. But underneath it all, it's the same thing. We're coming from separation back into unity. From 2 to 1. And this was foretold in the Garden of Eden. Because in the beginning, Adam and Eve were at one with God. And so therefore they were in paradise. But then they ate from what? The fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Separation. Duality. They ate from the fruit. And it gave them increased brain power. And they fell from unity into separation. From 1 to 2. And the first thing they noticed was that they were naked. Because for the first time they had an individual sense of separate self. Before then, they weren't aware that nakedness was a thing. And so, therefore, they were banished from paradise into a hell realm. Separation from God. But you don't have to look at this from a religious framework. Human beings are literally experiencing this all the time. Everyone is still struggling with that so-called original sin. And that original sin is ignorance. Ignorance of the truth. So most people are living in ignorance, believing in separation, and therefore they suffer. And so, the inevitable end is that you go from unity back to oneness. Or duality to oneness. That's what I meant. So there was a fall, now there's a rise. Death and resurrection. Ooh. Now if you seek freedom, you will find it. And you will receive messages that will help you along your journey. But for now, let me just share with you, what I would do in this situation. If I was struggling and suffering, dealing with problems all the time, never catching a break, this is what I did. Well, so we have 3 main elements. We have a body, we have a mind, and we have spirit, which is just consciousness. Just the pure, unconditioned awareness. And so, if the body is not taken care of, the mind is going to suffer. The mind's going to live in ignorance. So you got to take care of the body. Once the body is healthy and right, it is easier for the mind to have clarity. When you're in a deeply negative state all the time, you cannot trust your ideas and your thoughts because they're all being filtered through this deeply negative state. One way I like to look at it, it's very mainstream spirituality. From an energetic perspective, you can say heaven is the highest frequency and hell is the lowest. So, simply put, we want to become a high frequency individual because we all have this overall frequency. Let's just call it our auric field. Sounds pretty cool. And what that means is that, based off your thoughts, off your emotions, off your actions, and your identity, that will determine generally what rate your frequency is vibrating at. So for me, for instance, my default state is peace. Therefore, I'm a high frequency individual. But if my default state was suffering, I'd be a low frequency individual. So the first thing we do, take care of the body. And that helps give us a little bit of relief. Move the body, do some stretches, go exercise, go for a walk, drink some water, take in the sunlight, get good sleep. Focus on these 1% improvements. And this will sustain you on your journey forward. Because if you don't move your body, the mind is going to begin going off the rails. Because you have energy and it has to be spent. And if you don't move your body, if you don't channel that energy into your body, it's just going to go to your mind and produce never-ending thoughts. You have to diffuse that extra energy by pulling it into your body through exercise, through movement, through being in the present moment. You work on the body first, then you can deal with the mind stuff. Because if right now you're in a negative state, You can't deal with the mind stuff. It's too much. It's too complex. And you don't have the resources. You don't have the energy to do it. That's why depression is often so difficult. It's because we're coming from a very negative, low-frequency state, trying to solve the problem. And we're just so exhausted, we can't figure it out. But that is the mistake. You don't want to try and figure out the problem yet. You want to get your body moving. Do breath work. Breathe deeply. Learn how to control your breath. Learn how to meditate and return to the breath at will. If you learn how to return to your body and be in the present moment, your mind stuff will have no power over you. Because in the present moment is a state of no mind, no separation. You're in complete flow. And when you're in flow, you are at your best. You're rising high. And the more you're stuck in your mind, the more you will perpetually be taken out of the present moment and thrown into your mind space. So you need to ground yourself in your body. And once you have this grounding, that is the foundation in which now you can deal with the problem. Because you're not just all chaos in your mind going around 1,000,000 miles an hour. But that chaotic energy has been grounded within you, and you'll find some relief. Because in truth, you can always return to your body, to the present moment. However you want, through breathing. It all comes down to meditation. But the more you can focus your attention into the present moment and ground yourself here, the more you will diffuse that separation. Simply put, the more often you're in a state of no mind, well, the less separation there can be. You stop feeding the mind the sense of separation, and you naturally return to unity, to harmony, to balance. Now, because of our unique journey, you could say your unique karma, you're going to try this, but your mind has a lot of energetic momentum. So you're going to try to come to the present moment and breathe and be present, and then your mind's just going to yank you out of it. And then you're going to be freaking out for a moment. And then all you got to do is remember. And your mind's just going to keep doing this over and over again. And until you give up this battle with your mind, it will just keep coming. This is not a war that can be won. You have to surrender. Because the more you fight with your mind, the more you're feeding your mind stuff, the more you're reinforcing separation, the more you're going to stay stuck. The only reason your mind bothers you is because you entertain its nonsense. You're there listening to it and gobbling up its negativity. You're either fighting with the thoughts, you're running away from the thoughts, you're resisting the thoughts, you're afraid of the thoughts, you're engaging with them, and that is what's keeping them alive. But when you train yourself to be in the moment, to return to your body, to return to your breath, every time the thought storms come, you just return to the present moment. And this takes practice, and it's a muscle, so don't expect you just to be great at it. And if you can't do it, then, oh, I failed. You did not fail. You cannot get jacked by going to the gym once in a while. If you're truly suffering, you will do what it takes to be free from that suffering, unless it's not bad enough yet. So it's not that hard to set the intention to return to your breath, to return to the present moment, to return to your body. Because the moment you begin feeling relief by doing this, you're going to say, oh, well, why not do this all the time? The contrast between the suffering that your mind creates and the relief that your body gives you will be enough to motivate you. But you just need a little persistence and a little bit of focus. And this is kind of developed over time. And then, well, moving forward, the journey kind of unfolds as you got all this mind stuff you got to deal with. And it's going to be coming at you. And you're going to be attached to it. And it's going to come up for you to let go of that attachment. Because it is that attachment that is keeping you stuck in ignorance, in darkness. And it's necessary to let it go. And what it means to let go of this attachment is to let go of the part of yourself that no longer serves you. To change who you are by changing how you respond to certain things. So for instance, let's say you're addicted to drinking alcohol. The mind comes up, pulls you into temptation, you give in. You drink the alcohol, and the next day you feel like crap. Now what happens next determines how much you've changed. Do you repeat in your head, oh, I'm such a bad person, I thought I was doing so good, why did this happen? I should be doing better. I'm going to really try this time. I'm done, for real. You playing that game with yourself? Or do you say, well, you fall off your horse, you get back on. Don't think twice about it. Just keep moving forward. Those are two very different individuals. You see, because the more you beat yourself up or judge yourself for anything, the more you're reinforcing that attachment, because that attachment is created through negative emotions. You have a negative experience, and it creates negative feelings, and those feelings store that memory in your body as trauma. And in order for that trauma to go away, you gotta stop feeding it. And to stop feeding it, you gotta react differently to it. So by not getting entangled with your mind stuff, that energy begins diffusing on its own. The attachment begins falling away because it cannot survive without your energy. So all you got to do is stop feeding it. Stop feeding the attachment. And you do that by stop fighting, resisting, running away, being afraid. And you just change your reaction. Just a little bit each time. So you fall off your horse, maybe you wallow in suffering for an hour. And then the next time you fall off your horse and maybe you only wallow in your suffering for half an hour. That's a big improvement before you get back on. And as you just keep going throughout your life, you'll stop wallowing in suffering less and less and less and less and less. Until eventually you fall off, you don't care, you get back on. You fall off, you don't care, you get back on. Then you stop worrying about falling off. You train yourself to ride that horse. And you get good at it. And then the attachments aren't a problem for you anymore. And one way you can look at that horse is that, well, the mind is like the person on the horse, and the body is like the horse itself. You have the unconscious, which is the intelligence of the body, and you have the conscious, which is the intelligence of the mind. And what's going to happen is that, well, because we haven't yet learned how to properly manage our body, this animal thing that we are, it's going to continue to sabotage our lives. For instance, if the body has trauma, it's going to send you into fight or flight, depending on what you have been traumatized about. And that fight or flight is going to cause you to ruminate and spiral out of control, and it's going to hemorrhage all of your energy into short-term survival. And it's going to perpetually exhaust you, keep you stuck in negative states of being, in depression. That is why when you engage in self-sabotage or some addiction, you don't have control over it. Your body hijacks your whole system and forces you into it. And what we don't understand is that a lot of our mind problems, a lot of our thoughts, a lot of our trauma, it's actually a body problem. Because here's the thing. If you've gone through a lot of negative experiences in your life, and you haven't healed from them yet, your body is going to exist as a prey animal or as a wounded animal. Naturally, right? Therefore, your body will keep you in separation because you are existing as a separate animal in a hostile world that needs to always be paying attention to threats. And that's going to keep you in a world of suffering. You're not going to trust people. You're going to be paranoid. You're going to judge people. You're going to hate people because of the things they do to you. And so you have to train your body to relax and be at ease in this world because you do not want to be an animal. Have you not seen National Geographic? All that animals do is eat each other. So you will spend your whole life in fear and in scarcity. Have you not seen The Ghetto? The ghetto is full of people living in survival. That is why it is so violent. They're all living in separation. And with separation, well, also comes unity, but it's a tribe mentality. There's us and there's them. But the thing is, your body doesn't know anything other than the information that you feed it. It's completely open to anything. So every time you talk bad about yourself, your body's listening. And it's recording what you're saying. And then it's reformulating its understanding of the reality that you're living in. So if you say, oh, I'm stupid, I'm no good, I suck, your body is painting a picture that reflects what you've said. And then it will use that in the future and reinforce whatever you programmed into it. So you'll always experience more situations for you to feel stupid, for you to feel like you're no good, that you're always making mistakes, because that's what you've programmed into yourself. So you cannot afford to allow your unconscious programming to run amok. You have to consciously change the direction of your life by learning to train that horse. And that horse is trained by repetition, habit, and it speaks the language of feelings. So you got to make it feel differently. And the easiest way to do this is to make it feel differently about you. Because if you're feeling bad about yourself all the time, your body's just going to keep you in a negative state. You're never going to escape. You're trapped in this prison. But the moment you begin changing the way you think about yourself, you begin changing the way you speak to yourself, your body begins recording that. And it starts to change the picture it has of you from being this lowly, survival-based animal who can never catch a break, who's always suffering, who's living in lack and scarcity. And you can change it to be an animal that's relaxed, that's full of abundance, that's living a wonderful life, that's living in heaven. And the moment you can change that picture, life starts unfolding effortlessly for you in the best possible ways. So start speaking more kindly to yourself. Speak to yourself with kindness and compassion and love. Don't beat yourself up when you fall down. It's part of being human. You have to learn to love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to love life. And there's going to be a part of you that doesn't love yourself. And that part has to be loved. And the more you can heal the relationship to yourself, the more you allow the light in, the more you allow love to flow through you. And now you have love to give. You're just inching your way toward unity. But first you need to be united in yourself. Because if you're in inner conflict, you're always going to be at war with yourself. You're not going to like yourself. You're not going to like life. And you're going to be in conflict in the world as well. And you unify yourself by loving every aspect of yourself fully and accepting yourself as you are right now. You stop judging yourself. You stop judging life. You stop judging others. And you take care of yourself first, because once you find the light, then you can share the light with others. But if you're living in darkness, all you can do is probably lead others astray. The blind leading the blind. Take the time to self-care. And don't get distracted by other things. This is the most important thing in your life, is healing your relationship with yourself. And that'll deal with like a lot of your problems. Embark on a journey of self-discovery. Discover yourself. Learn about yourself. Where are you attached? Where are you traumatized? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Flesh it out. Understand yourself. And this will be the most meaningful journey that you go on in this life. Because you're always with yourself. Always. Your whole life. And the moment you get yourself right, everything else takes care of itself. Because you are the source of all problems. And you are the source of all harmony. I've seen people, they approach a situation, and because they're messy human being, like we all are, but I mean really attached to separation, in trying to fix a problem, they create 10 more problems. All the time, always. They can't help it. Because a messy person will mess up a messy situation. Throw more mess. But when I approach a situation, no matter what I do, it always works out perfectly. Without any effort. Because I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not identified with a separate form. And when you're not identified with a separate form, life effortlessly flows through you. And life is the source of harmony. So wherever I go, I bring forth harmony. Doesn't mean that I don't have attachments, that I still don't have karma. It just means that more often than not, the fruit that I bear is good. Not because of me, the individual, but because the lack of me, the individual. As they say, the lights are on, but nobody's home. And that's how I live my life, kind of. A continued dissolution of the mind. And as I go along my journey, it's going to just be more and more and more disillusioned. Until I'm Eckhart Tolle. Until you're completely immersed in the light. And the more you go down this path, the more you bring forth heaven on earth and create the space for others to find the light as well. The world struggling in darkness, they're waiting for you. And once you come out on the other end, you will have overcome a great difficulty. And in your journey, you will gain much wisdom. And you can share that wisdom with the world. And like a wildfire, the truth spreads across the earth, And we create a more loving and harmonious world, free from so much suffering. Because the only reason we experience these great tragedies, these great evils on earth, is because so many people are living in ignorance, bringing the state of the collective consciousness down, allowing for negativity to flourish on the earth. And the more human beings raise their consciousness, the more we separate ourselves from these lower negative states of being, these hell realms. And you will stop seeing such tragedies happen. Less war, less murder, less evil. Because toxicity cannot grow in a healthy environment. And health cannot grow in a toxic environment. And right now, the earth is battling between these two forces. Those trapped in ignorance and those immersed in the light. And every day we're voting which side we're on. And your vote counts. Because every individual that's striving toward the light opens up the opportunity for others to do the same. I am Ray, and if you're tired of feeling like a slave to your thoughts, I created a program to set you free. Check it out. I am Ray, much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be